What is going on, y'all? How are we doing? Don't mind the hair. My hair is all freaking mess right now. It is crazy, but making a little fishing tips and tricks video. So I like to mix in a little bit of tips and tricks, techniques. I like to talk about some of the things that, like, how I'm catching a lot of my fish on. Once in a while to actually talk about it. A few days ago, actually a week ago, I ended up making a video, uploaded a video, talking about my favorite springtime lures to use. And I showcased a few of my favorite Googan Baits that I love to fish with, that I've been fishing with for a while now. During that video, I was upset because I had a package pending, waiting to get delivered. And it was supposed to be delivered a couple days prior to making that video. And it wasn't delivered until about 3 or 4 days after. Go into this, let's actually get this going. My springtime lure, whether I fish early, whether I fish mid, or whether I fish late time spring, or any time of the year really. This lure right here. It's a jig. Now there's different types of jigs. You got a flip jig, a finesse jig, a swim jig, as well as a football head jig, which is this one right here. Each jig does something different. So a flip jig is made for heavy structure, vegetation, wood structure, rock structure. It's made, the design of it's made so you don't get snagged on all that stuff. So when you are flipping it around, fishing around it, popping it through, you're not going to get caught as easily. Now, the second best choice, what I like to fish with, is the football head jig, which is what I have in my hand right now. This is also made for heavy constructed, or heavy structure that you might be fishing. Just not as heavy. You're still likely to actually get snagged on a little bit when fishing this. A little bit more prone than you are if you fish with a flip jig. Still a very nice alternative if you can't find a flip jig, or flip jigs aren't in stock or anything like that, and you find one of these are still really nice. You can still flip and pitch around heavy structure, still fish around heavy structure with this. Now a swim jig, it's in its name, it's a swim jig. You swim it. So you basically, you pop it through the water, cast out, and just coast it through the water. So you're just jerking it constantly. You don't really let it sit or hit the bottom. You kind of just brush it. You brush it across the water. Usually you fish a swim jig and if the fish are suspended in deep water, but they're not in the deep water, they're actually suspending like a couple feet below the surface. That's usually what you use a flip jig for, or sorry, a swim jig for. And then you have a finesse jig, which you're fishing at a very slow pace. You're using a finesse-y type action to get it through. The presentation on the finesse jig is actually really good. Usually when you're fishing a finesse jig, you're using a flipping to pitching technique through not heavy cover, but you're getting the outskirts of that heavy cover. My go-tos are flip jigs as well as football head jigs, and that's what this one is right here. Designed by Googan Baits. I've talked about Googan Baits. This is probably primarily the only fishing company that I actually fish with, that use their products. So getting into it, the reason why I like fishing jigs here in the springtime, whether you do early spring, middle of spring, or late spring time, when you're fishing for bass, or really any fish, bass are visual predators and they see a lot of commotion, they react to it. Now when you have a jig that's bouncing constantly off the bottom, moving through, picking up a whole bunch of dirt, that mud, the weeds, all that, creates a visual effect for these bass to key into. And when this thing just sinks down to the bottom, tailor floating up, the craw at the end, my trailer that I have is just sitting up, almost vertical, almost perfectly vertical in the water. And then all of a sudden, with one twitch, boom, boom, boom. And it just creates that nice visual effect. These bass can go from very slow active to fast active pretty quick with just a couple twitches. I cast out, I let it sink to the bottom, I let it sit there at the bottom, because any bass that are around there or in the vicinity, I let it kind of just sit there and let that presentation kind of show off a little. So basically what I do is I lower my rod tip down and then I pop it up. Reel in, pop it up. And I'll constantly be doing that over and over again, just popping that lure up. And I'll do that and I'll keep doing that until I get a bite, until I get a strike. Now there's at times where that's a very fast pace and you can keep popping it up without stopping at all. And there's some times where you have to pause for a good amount of time. You have to play around with it. Fish are different. Each day is different when it comes to fishing. What worked yesterday doesn't always work today. Fish with a jig, whether you fish springtime, summertime, or fall time, or wintertime really. you're going to get bit. This is an all-time lure. This is a lure that literally can be used all year round. And you can't say that for a lot of lures. So my 3 favorite colors I like to go with, and we're going to stick with Googan Baits, because this is what I primarily fish with, and this is what I recommend to a lot of people, and is Cowboy Crawl is my number 1. This is what a Cowboy Crawl looks like. It's a light brown, tannish, with black streamers as well as black speckles in there, with a little bit of hint of red. Is the Okeechobee Crawl. It's got blue, light brown, a very faded out green colorization to it. Now the third other color, which I wish I had, but I unfortunately do not currently, is a PB&J, which is a brown, purple, and I believe there's like a little bit of black in there too. That is 3 of my favorite colors to fish for, whether I fish muddy water, clear water. All those lures are very versatile. Those colors are very versatile. And color does matter. Believe it or not, color does matter. If you're fishing a very clear water, a black and blue might not be very appetizing. But a green pumpkin will look a little bit more appetizing, because that's going to look more like a lot of the food that these bass are eating that's in that eco. I hope this kind of gave like a little, I hope this video, I've been talking constantly for 26 minutes now. I really hope that this gave a little bit more in-depth, not just an in-depth, but I hope this gave a little bit more of a better perspective of like how I fish, how I catch these fish, what I'm using, and primarily this is exactly what I'm using. 9 times out of 10, this is the lure that I have on my rod, at the end of my rod, or at the end of my line, I should say. 9 times out of 10, I'm catching a fish on this over catching a fish on anything else. If there is anything that you actually want me to showcase and show off, whether it's a certain crankbait, jerkbait, spinner, topwater, anything like that, please let me know down in the comment section below. And as always, guys, I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like, subscribe for more content. Make sure you go follow me on all social medias, both Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you want to find any of these great products, you make sure you go down in the link in the description, shopcarls.com. Go pick yourself up some Googan Baits. If you don't know anything about Googan Baits, I made a video about them about a week ago. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and all that type of stuff. Make sure you go follow me on all social medias. Everything is down in the description. Make sure you go to shopcarls.com. Go pick yourself up some baits and get out there and catch some fish. And remember, y'all, keep on fishing. And I'm out. Peace.